There's a truth a lot of men refuse to accept. Women don't confess. They don't say, "I like you." What they do is leak signals through small, seemingly casual phrases. So don't sit there, waiting for her to show up with flowers, standing in the rain, screaming, "Hey, I've fallen for you." That's not happening. Wake up. Women don't operate on drum rolls. They speak in a different language, the language of emotion, wrapped in the tiniest sentences that linger for days. She might say, "I don't know why, but I feel so comfortable talking to you." You think it's just being polite? That's a soft launch announcement. You've got a chance, but if you don't catch on, that door's going to close, and I won't even tell you when. If you've ever laid in bed at night thinking, "Wait, why did she say that to me?" You're not alone. Drop a dot below this video if you've ever missed a signal and only realized later, "Oh, she was actually giving me the green light." Let's see how many of us were clueless once. In this video, I'm going to show you 6 things women say when they're starting to feel something for you. They sound light, but trust me, they're not. Because if you hear them and still don't get it, you're opting out of the game without even knowing. Let's start decoding right now. I don't know why, but I feel so comfortable talking to you. Sounds simple, right? Like she's just being polite, sweet, friendly. But if you brush this line off, you might be walking right past one of the clearest emotional signals she's ever given. Because the truth is, women rarely feel comfortable talking to men. Not because they're picky, but because they're approached too often, judged too quickly, labeled too easily, watched for every word, every glance. So when a woman says, "I don't know why, but I feel so comfortable talking to you," what she's really saying is, you just got past the first wall, and very few men ever make it through. You know when women actually start to feel something? Not when you're good looking, not when you're rich, not when you're funny, but when you create a space where she can take off the mask and not feel judged for it. A study by the American Psychological Association found psychological safety is the #1 factor in building deep emotional connection, especially for women. APA Journal, 2016. She feels safe, not because you're charming, but because you're not pushing. You're not trying to control. You're not performing. You're just fully present, but never demanding. Picture this. She's dated guys who talk like walking resumes. "I work in this industry, drive that car, travel to this country." You asked something no one else ever asked. Not, "So what do you do?" But, "When you're doing nothing, what kind of feeling do you enjoy the most?" She smiles, doesn't answer right away, but part of her starts to breathe. Comfort is the signal. It means she's slowly letting go of the armor, the one she's worn with everyone else. Because men who make women feel safe aren't soft, they're strong enough not to make her feel defensive. You think her feeling comfortable means you're easy to win over? Not quite. What it really means is you've just become emotionally investable, and when women feel safe, they open up, but only to those who've earned it. Here's the real question. Are you making her feel genuinely safe, or are you just predictable and forgettable? Because a man who gives safety doesn't do it by being weak. He's strong enough to never need control. Stoicism taught me, when you don't try to control others, you become the most trustworthy presence in the room. She won't say, "I like you." She'll just say, "I don't know why, but I feel comfortable talking to you." And honestly, you don't need more than that. Because if you understand what that really means, then you know. You just stepped inside the emotional walls of a woman. Have you ever heard a line like that and thought, "We're just friends, right?" Drop the words, "I missed it," in the comments, so I know you've overlooked a moment that mattered, because once she starts to feel comfortable, something even more powerful starts to unfold. It's like, "You get what I'm thinking." 2. It's like, "You get what I'm thinking." This isn't a compliment, it's a confession, laced with a little fear, a little curiosity, and maybe a quiet spark. Women don't easily let people see inside, not because they're guarded, but because they've grown used to being judged, before they've even finished a sentence. So if she says, "It's like you get what I'm thinking," it means you just slipped past a wall most men never even notice. This isn't TikTok level mind reading. This is connection, the kind that doesn't come from guessing, but from feeling. According to a 2021 study in Psychology Today, women value emotional understanding and deep connection, even more than looks or income, when choosing a long-term partner. Why? Because the feeling of being understood triggers subconscious safety, not short-term excitement. But here's what matters most. You can't fake being someone who understands. You can't memorize a few clever questions and think you're deep enough. If you're trying to perform, she'll feel it. Women don't need a reason to trust. They need energy that makes them feel. You're talking with her, not trying to impress. You're just present. You don't interrupt. You don't say, "Oh, so your ex really messed that up, huh?" You don't try to sound wise. You just say, "I get it. You've probably held that in for a long time, haven't you?" She pauses, looks at you, and says nothing. Because for the first time, she doesn't need to say more to feel heard. The most attractive man isn't the one who understands everything. It's the one who makes her feel she doesn't have to explain. You think women want someone who always says the right thing? Number. They want someone who lets them say less and still feel understood. Are you really present in your conversations? Or just waiting for your turn to say something smart? Stoicism taught me this. The weak always try to speak. The strong know when silence says more. So when a woman says, "It's like you get what I'm thinking," that's the start of real connection. No drama, no show, but powerful. Have you ever made a woman feel understood, only to lose her because you weren't stable enough to hold that energy? Write this in the comments. I understood, but I wasn't enough. Not to regret, but to make sure next time you don't lose it again. Because once she feels that deep connection, she'll want to know where she stands in your heart. And that's when you'll hear the next line. I think I get a little jealous. 3. I think I'm a little jealous. She won't say, "I'm jealous." No drama, no cold shoulder, no screaming like a K-drama heroine. But if you're paying attention, you'll hear the jealousy in her eyes, not in her words. It's just, "I think I'm a little jealous." Or, "That girl seemed really happy texting you." Or maybe softer, "Who's she?" Sounds playful, but it's not. It's real emotion, wrapped in lightness, because she doesn't want to give too much away. A woman never says she's jealous unless she actually cares. And if she says it, it means she's afraid. Afraid of losing her place in your heart. According to the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, jealousy in women is triggered when they feel like they're no longer the priority in someone's emotional world. No title needed, no commitment required, just emotion. That's enough to stir insecurity. Jealousy isn't a problem, it's a signal. It means she's afraid you won't choose her. In a world full of choices, you're texting, a name pops up. She leans in, smiles lightly and asks, "Who's that?" She's calm, still smiling, but her eyes don't feel quite the same as 5 seconds ago. That's when you know you've reached something real inside her. You might think, "But we're not even dating. Why would she be jealous?" You forgot something. Jealousy doesn't need a label. It only needs a slight shift in the rhythm of her heart. And if you handle it wrong, if you panic, over-explain, try too hard to smooth things over, you just lost your frame. And more importantly, you just confirmed you're afraid. She shows soft jealousy. Don't respond with soft thinking, because sometimes it's an invitation. Other times, it's a quiet goodbye. Have you ever lost a woman because you ignored those tiny, almost invisible moments of jealousy? Stoicism taught me this. You don't need to react to everything, but you must be present enough not to miss what matters. If you've ever seen her get just a little jealous and brushed it off, or worse, laughed at it, and then she went silent, type one word, regret, because some women only get jealous once, and never again. But if you respond with calm, if you hold your ground without being defensive, she won't pull back. In fact, she might begin to open something rare, a space not everyone gets to enter. And you'll hear words she's never told anyone. I've never said this to anyone before. 4. I've never told anyone this before. Some things a woman says aren't meant to be answered. They're meant to see if you're grounded enough to hold them. And out of all those moments, none feels as light, yet as heavy as when she says, I've never told anyone this before. Sounds simple, sounds dramatic. Don't be fooled. This isn't small talk. It's a door she's opening, and she's watching to see if you can step through without breaking anything. Women don't easily share the personal, so if she picks you to say something she's never told anyone else, it means one of two things. Either she genuinely trusts you, or this is her final test. According to Harvard Medical School, 2020, sharing a personal secret boosts oxytocin, the bonding hormone. But if received the wrong way, that trust can collapse instantly. So when she says, I've never told anyone this before, it's not a confession, it's a gamble, an emotional bet. She looks at you, there's hesitation. Her voice slows down. Then she says, I've never told anyone this, but back in high school, I got really hurt by someone I trusted too much. She doesn't want you to fix it. She's not waiting for advice. She just wants to see, will you turn it into a burden or carry it like a gift? Because here's the truth. A secret held the right way won't make her fall in love with you, but it will make it hard for her to walk away. You think this means she trusts you already? Maybe, but maybe not. She's sitting in front of you, but her eyes are reading your reaction more than your words. She's not asking for anything. She just wants to know. Will you protect what she just handed you? Have you ever heard something deep from a woman and replied with something careless? Some shallow advice? Some awkward joke? And from that moment on, she never shared again? Have you ever made someone close up right when she was opening her heart? Type one word, regret, not to punish yourself, but to remember. Next time, don't fumble the one thing she only says once in a lifetime. And if you pass that moment, if you don't try to fix it, don't overreact, don't overperform. If you're just quietly, fully present, solid, still, safe, she'll look at you. And this time, she won't hold back anymore. She'll say, you're really different from any guy I've ever met. 5. You're really different from anyone I've ever met. Women don't say this easily, and if she does say it, it means you've left a real emotional mark. You're really different from anyone I've ever met. Sounds like a compliment? It is, but if you listen deeper, you'll realize she's paying more attention than you think. This isn't something she says to guys who are just good at making impressions. She says it to the man who doesn't have to show off, but still makes her feel the difference. You didn't try to act special. You didn't overshare how broken you've been. You didn't ask to be understood. But when she's around you, she feels calm, without feeling bored, challenged, without feeling exhausted, safe, without losing the spark. And then, in a quiet moment, during a conversation with no agenda, no effort to impress, she just says it. You're really different from anyone I've ever met. Don't take this as the finish line, because actually, this is when she starts to worry. Worry that she's trusting too much, getting too close, feeling something too unfamiliar. Women aren't afraid of bad men. They're afraid of meeting the right one and losing him. According to the American Psychological Association, we're drawn most intensely to those who create contrast, a calm, grounded energy. That doesn't pressure, doesn't overwhelm. Real difference isn't in cool attitude, it's in quiet strength. The man who's truly different doesn't have to say a word. She can feel it. Now ask yourself, have you ever been told you were different, only to be forgotten later? Maybe you were different in the moment, but not steady enough to stay different. Stoicism taught me this. You don't need to do more. You just need to be less shaken, and your presence becomes unforgettable. You ever almost became that guy in her life, but ended up just like the rest? Type one word, almost. For that moment, and for the next one you won't miss. Because when she says you're different, you're no longer just another person in her emotional landscape. And now, if you go quiet for a few days, she may not text right away, but deep down, a quiet thought will echo. If he disappears, I think I'd feel that. 6. If you disappeared, I think I'd feel it. She's not saying this because you're her boyfriend, not because you text her every night, not because you're charming, handsome, or say all the right things. She says this because somehow you've quietly become a part of her emotional rhythm. If you disappeared, I think I'd feel it. A simple sentence. But behind it is an emotional framework built with depth. You can't make her say this by texting a lot. You won't hear this just because you're good with words. You hear it because you've been steady, present, real. You didn't shout, you didn't chase. But when you're not there, her world misses a beat. Today you're offline. No stories, no replies, no updates. She says nothing. But inside, something feels slightly off. Not panic, just not as calm as yesterday. Then you show up again, and she says, casually, almost without meaning to, if you disappeared, I think I'd feel it. This isn't, I love you. It's not, I can't live without you. It's something else, a quiet acknowledgement that you've carved out a space in her inner world. And space, as you know, only exists when someone's presence has become familiar. According to a 2019 study in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology, people who bring emotional steadiness without attachment are remembered more deeply and missed more intensely when they're suddenly gone. You don't have to make her miss you. You just have to live with enough depth that, when you're not there, her world feels less complete. You don't need to force her to remember. Just live in a way that, when you're gone, something's clearly missing. Maybe you thought you had a place in someone's life, but when you step back for a few days, she didn't notice, didn't react. Maybe you were often present, but never heavy enough to leave a mark. Stoicism never taught me to leave just to be missed. It taught me to live in a way where, if I'm no longer there, no one else fits that space by default. You don't need to play games like disappearing to become addictive. That's a weak tactic. What you need is presence with value, a kind of value so deep, it doesn't shout, but when it's gone, everyone hears the silence. Have you ever shown up consistently, thinking it meant something, but the moment you went quiet, no one noticed? Type one word, forgettable. To remind yourself, being present often means nothing if there's no substance in your presence. But if you live with depth, with weight, with clarity, you won't have to chase. You won't have to win her over. She'll say it herself, that you left an imprint, not just a moment. Women don't express emotions the way men expect. They don't say, I like you, the moment they feel something. Instead, they say, I feel comfortable talking to you. It's like you know what I'm thinking. I feel a little jealous. I've never told this to anyone before. You're really different from the guys I've met. And finally, when you start pulling back, if you disappeared, I think I'd feel it. Do you see it now? None of those are love confessions. They're signals. Signals that you're getting closer. You're touching layers few ever reach. And if you're steady enough, real enough, you might stay where others were denied. Women aren't easily moved, but when they are, they express it in quiet, honest, and deeply human ways. And the only thing you really need is not another trick to make her addicted. It's to live in a way where you become the kind of man who can't be replaced. Attraction doesn't live in the words you say. It lives in the feeling she gets when you don't have to say anything at all. Have you ever lost someone just because you missed these signals when they were right in front of you? Then comment one word, too late. Say it for that moment. So next time, you won't guess. You'll know. If you've made it this far, I don't need to ask if you're enjoying this, because you're not here for entertainment. You're here to change the way you show up. And if you want to keep walking this path with me, hit subscribe, because there's so much more women don't say, but they do feel, and you deserve to understand it. Not just for them, but for yourself. See you in the next video.